The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived, we will call the meeting of the Hastings Planning Commission to order. This is April 9th, 2018, and this is a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the March 12th meeting. Commissioners, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? They are approved. All right, item number 2 on the agenda. This is a public hearing. We have a special use permit and site plan 2018-14 for the Wise Funeral Home. Mr. Forte.
Thank you very much. The zoning code allows for funeral homes in the R2 zoning district with a special use permit. Uses allowed by special use permit are those that could function well in a zoning district if they're given special review to look at the potential issues that could be avoided with special conditions. The applicant is proposing to expand the parking lot over the existing lot that was the site of a demolished house. The existing building is also going to be expanded by about 400 square feet with the addition of a crematory. In December, the City Council passed an ordinance amendment that was reviewed by the Planning Commission that would allow funeral homes and crematoriums in R2 zoning districts, which is medium density residence. The consideration was at the request of Weiss Funeral Home, which had been planning for this expansion. This is an aerial photograph. You can see the 3 parcels that make up the site. And this is a site plan and an inset of the building section to the north with the proposed addition. Without the ordinance amendment, the addition and parking lot expansion and the crematorium would not have been allowed to occur on what had previously been considered a non-conforming use. The existing driveways are not proposed to change. And the expanded parking lot will go from 23 parking stalls to 50. Additional parking stalls also exist in front of the building and along 4th Street. The parking requirements for the type of use are based on seating capacity. It'd be 1 parking space required for every 3 chairs, which would be about 47 spaces being required. And on the site plan, you can see on the north side of the building is the proposed addition. You can see it more clearly on this inset blown up. It's 14 feet by 28 feet. And this is an architectural rendering of the design. And from another angle. And this is a photograph of that same side of the building. The addition will be on the right-hand side. The setbacks meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance requires 10-foot minimum setback from the property line that's adjacent to a side street. For parking lot lighting, 1 double fixture is proposed in the center of the parking lot. A photometric plan is being revised to show light levels at the property lines not exceeding the residential limit. City code also requires a timer or similar cutoff for lighting during off-peak times. And, as far as landscaping goes, the ordinance does require a 10-foot wide landscape strip between a parking lot and a residential property line or a street. 5 feet are proposed between the side street, I believe it's Spring, and the parking lot. Staff believes that's an adequate buffer because it's a constrained redevelopment site and the proposed setback is greater than the existing setback on that side. Plus, there's a hedge along that side included for additional parking lot screening. The existing structure has a painted wood siding and stone veneer wainscoting. This meets the current design standards of the zoning ordinance, and the proposed addition will match those existing materials as close as possible. Staff is recommending approval of the site plan, subject to the conditions of the staff report. When reviewing this for a special use permit, we look at several different items, and I'll list some of them and how well the existing proposal meets those. One we always look at is the ingress and egress and off-street parking and loading. Much of the proposed site has been in operation without issue. The existing driveways won't be changed, and since the existing parking is being expanded, it'll alleviate any on-street parking issues that have been in the past. The site utilizes existing building with existing utility services, which won't change drastically from this proposal. Screening and buffering. All the uses will be contained within the existing building and the proposed addition. The lighting photometric plan will assure that lighting levels are within the residential guidelines for the area. Compatibility with adjacent properties in the surrounding area. The property is located in the residential district, and the appearance of the site is very residential in nature, and there's little traffic on the site outside of the operating hours for funerals. And the crematory. Staff has researched crematories in residential areas over the past year and received feedback from those living in the area and businesses adjacent to those uses, along with scheduling a visit to a similar facility to witness the crematory in operation. And staff believes the impact is negligible to the surrounding area. The only noticeable effect that was witnessed was if you're close to the building, you could hear a fan in the exhaust, and then you can see the heat line visible in the air above the chimney, like you would on above hot pavement or exhaust from a hot engine or something like that. Staff is recommending approval of the special use permit, also subject to the conditions of the staff report. And notification was sent to property owners within 350 feet of the site, and it was published in the Star Gazette, and no comments have been received by staff. So with that, this is a public hearing, and staff can also answer any questions, along with applicants are in the audience tonight.
All right, thank you. And because we are talking about a special use permit, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. If there's anybody here that has any comments about this matter, they're welcome to step to the podium. Any takers? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Are they gonna move the light post into the center of the parking lot so that property on the west side doesn't get higher light levels? I'm just curious if that's something that can be, is that pretty easily solved?
Well, I believe the location of the light pole is in the center island there.
Right, so how are they gonna keep the candlelight below the 0.5 marker on the photometric plan? Because right now, obviously, it's not. That's all, I'm just curious how that's gonna be achieved.
Well, the staff's issue with the photometric plan is that it doesn't show any readings at the property line. It cuts off, I don't know, maybe 15 feet, 20 feet from the property line. So it may already meet that requirement, but if it doesn't, they can put different shielding on the light, or they can lower the wattage of the light fixture, or use a totally different light fixture. There's probably a lot of different ways they could look at changing that.
Pretty simple fix then?
I would assume, yeah, but they'll take care of it, and they'll show us a revised lighting plan showing that at that western property line, it can't be over a half a foot candle at the property line.
Can we add that as one of the subject to the following condition items?
I think I've got that in there.
Oh.
Under the site plan.
It's under lighting.
Right.
Is that,
We don't need to list it, though, as one of the, you have your recommended action, approval of the plan, subject to the following conditions type of things.
Yeah, I think I maybe meant to have it in there. We'll put that as number 8.
Okay.
So is what is being thought about, is that what's typical for a commercial property, correct?
Well, if it was surrounded by commercial, uses, they could have 1-foot candle at the property lines.
1 foot, and this is how much again?
They're allowed to have a 1/2-foot candle.
And that's 24 hours.
Well, that would be the maximum allowed. The code also requires that they have a timing mechanism to either lower the lighting level during off-peak times or shut it off completely. So, because they'll want the light to operate, when it gets dark in the winter at 4 o'clock. But there's no reason to have it on its full brightness at 2 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, my only concern was just that was part of the approval for that one residence on the west there. The other 2 are public streets. It's not affecting anybody, so.
Sure.
Just so you know, there's a pretty steep grade.
I've seen the grade, yeah.
On the side, so that's also gonna help with increasing the light. And it's not gonna be a problem with that. And as, the owners, we are gonna have the lights on if there's nothing going on.
Sure.
It's not like a typical commercial parking lot where we have on every night, because they don't have fumes or anything, so there's only gonna be time they have that full on.
Sure.
And we have 1 o'clock, or 10 o'clock, or 11 o'clock at night, it'll go on.
10 or 11 at night, it'll go off?
Whatever they want to set it at. They aren't gonna have to go past 10 o'clock, they're gonna have, it'll probably be off by 9 o'clock on those street lights.
So there's nothing that, if you change your mind and keep it on 24 hours, you can, they're just, I don't, help them with that.
Well, we do have nuisance ordinances that we can bring up as enforcement issues with them. What we're doing at this point is looking at the site plan and making sure that they have the plan to have 0.5 foot candles or less, and also have the equipment available to set a time on it in case it becomes an issue in the future.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
it appears that there's gonna be a loss of a couple of trees on that north side with that addition. Is that true? And I'm curious as to whether there'll be any additional put in.
Yeah, there was a couple identified that they're going to be losing. They are adding trees to the site. See if I can see which ones. On this,
We only show 1 tree being removed, we're hoping we can save the second tree. If you go back, Justin, if you look just to the east of the addition, the tree that's closest to the foundation, we're hoping to save that. And how we do that, like when we did Carlson Capital, building over here, we had these oak trees next to the building. We were able to cut the roots and then cap them. We had the forester within the city help us with that, to keep these trees alive over here. Those are very large pine trees that are on there. The hope is to save it. But right now, we only show 1 missing, and we're adding all those trees on the south end. And then other shrubbery and stuff along the east end as well. And we have a tree in the island, North Island, right there as well.
So the site is gaining trees overall.
correct.
Great, thank you.
The other advantage of those, the north end with all tree doesn't show it very well, but you're gonna have a hard time seeing this addition unless you're getting right and looking 90 degrees back at the building. It's gonna be pretty well hidden back there. That the chimney stack are gonna be pretty well hidden.
Okay, so the addition is to the north or the west?
To the north.
Okay. So then it'll be coming closer to Fourth Street than it is now by the whole extension.
28 feet.
Yeah, it'll be
28 feet,
up
yeah.
here.
So you'll be able to see it more, because it's gonna be like right on the street for the most part?
Right. If you look at, if you drive by the site, it's full of pine trees. You'll really have a hard time seeing it until you get closer to it.
It's immaterial anyway.
So it's pretty well screened in. And the grades will be buried into the hill as well, so it's not gonna be like sticking out of the ground. On Fourth Street, it'll be out, sticking out most, but again, we're within our allotted setback of 10 feet.
It looks like a timely redevelopment of that site. Get the empty spot out of there.
So I guess I've got a question, or I don't have knowledge of the toxicity of the emissions of a burn like that. And as a homeowner next to this or even anywhere close, I mean, to me, I think it's really important that the residents nearby, I mean, I can, the smoke is invisible, but yet it still exists, there's emissions, and I'm wondering the environmental impacts of it.
Under the crematory section,
Yeah.
it talks about that a little bit. There is no smoke.
You mean the staff research?
Yeah, it's under special use permit review.
Yeah, I read that, but it says nothing about the emissions, what the emissions are, there's no environmental impact type analysis of the emissions.
Just wasn't there a study done by MPCA regarding crematories that City referenced that had no findings on?
Yeah, I know John is the one that did all the research on crematories, and I think he talked to somebody at the state that does the inspections or the permitting on those. And to be honest, I can't remember what they found, but I know that John's concerns with this being in a residential area were alleviated by the answers he got by his research that he had done.
Part of that being, John went to visit a crematory in the neighborhood. While they were doing a crematory, and witnessed there was a person on the deck, and the residents right next door having coffee and reading the paper while this was going on. So, John Hensman can tell you that story, but he's
Yeah,
done a lot of
he-
research on it, so it's very minimal. I think they've made great advances in crematories from where they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. Where we didn't go in and what it's been.
Yeah, I just know that things can be toxic and they don't smell, you don't see smoke, and there can still be a toxicity to it. And it sounds like EPA checks stuff like that. But when is the checks? How often? Can it, down the road, can you change your method because something latest and greatest comes out that changes the burn type?
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm just concerned about those types of things.
Sure. All I can say is the research we've come up with, that hasn't been an issue.
So there's nothing that shows up?
Just heat that comes out. There's an
Just heat.
after chamber at the crematory that really takes care of the emissions. So the only thing that really comes out that after chamber is
Uh-huh.
just the heat. So they kind of refer to like a little vapor, like even like when you're heating your house, if you look on top of people's houses,
If there aren't any more questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the plan with the modification that we discussed earlier to add the .5 candlelight as part of the approval of the site plan, subject to the following conditions.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Harvey to approve. Is there a second?
With the lighting being added?
And Commissioner Barr seconds. Any final comments? If,
I'm assuming that we're talking about the site plan and the special use permit at the same time, correct?
oh, that's an excellent clarification. Commissioner Harvey, you want to clarify that in your motion?
Yeah, I'd like to adjust my motion to be both the site plan and the special use permit with the adjustment to add the .5 candlelight as item number 8 under the site plan approval.
Excellent, and Commissioner Bars still have a second? All right, all those in favor of the approval of the site plan and special use permit, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, Justin, what's next for this particular item?
This will be forwarded to the city council meeting on the 16th, next week, for final approval.
All right. Other actions, we have a update on the comprehensive plan on the agenda.
That was probably left over from the last
Last
agenda.
week? Okay.
But since you brought it up, for other business, I was just going to mention that that's probably one of the next things that the commission will be looking at is a comprehensive plan draft, probably at the next meeting or the following.
All right.
And one other thing to mention is that will be coming forward is a ordinance amendment from staff regarding special use permits. Currently, special use permits don't have any type of a sunset clause once they begin. And there's, in many cases, that's not an issue. But in a recent case where there was a special use permit granted for auto repair on 23rd Street or thereabouts, it hadn't been used as auto repair in nearly 40 years or 30 years, and somebody called and asked if they could operate it for auto repair, and the special use permit's still valid, and everything may work out, but it's kind of close proximity to residential, and the owners that live there now, you know, weren't probably the owners that were invited to the meeting 40 years ago.
Right.
And so you noticed maybe in this staff report for the crematorium and funeral home, we did add the condition that it has a sunset clause. They have to begin. There's also a sunset clause, though, if the operation ceases to exist for a period of a year or greater, then they would have to come back and get a new special use permit. And so we're going to just amend the code to make that in the code for all special use permits going forward. And so I don't know if that'll be, that may very well be at the next meeting.
All right. And is there any other business?
Nothing from our last meeting went to council, so we don't have anything, any updates for council actions.
All right, commissioners, do you have anything? All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye?
Second?
Don't need it for this.
You don't need it for closing?
No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.